everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. Today on the show, I'm going to be talking about a film that is not only extremely important in terms of the history of film, but is also extremely important in terms of the history of the world. And it is a film that, won countless numbers of awards when it came out. And it's a monumental masterpiece of a film, and that is Schindler's List. This is the new 4K, the 25th anniversary edition that just came out not long ago. And I picked this up, I want to say, probably about a couple days after it came out. And I kind of put it off to watch, ironically enough. This is an extremely heavy film, the subject matter dealing with the Holocaust and Oskar Schindler's kind of way of trying to save as many people as he could and the atrocities of that event. And it's a wildly powerful film. This is a movie that really, hits you hard in terms of emotion. Watching this for the first time in quite a few years, it really emotionally got to me. I cried multiple times throughout this film, and it's a movie like no other. Steven Spielberg did, one of the greatest jobs ever in terms of directing a film with this. Every shot is expertly crafted. The camera work in this is just amazing. Kaminsky's direction in terms of photography in this is absolutely second to none. The black and white photography that, is most of the film, I'd say about 96% of the film, is it's mind-blowing. And I've always loved this film, and I love the way that this has had a historical aspect to it. It's an amazing film. And this is my review of the new 4K version of the film. And I'm not going to really talk about the film very much. If you haven't seen this movie, you absolutely need to see this film. As I mentioned earlier, I consider it a masterpiece, quite possibly one of the greatest films ever made. Anyway, now that we're done with that, I wanted to talk to you about the 4K itself. And I have to admit, this 4K disc, I was a little skeptical about the fact that it's a 4K, 4K movie, the transfer and everything. I was like, how good is this going to look when most of the movie is in black and white? And then I learned that the movie actually has Dolby Vision on the disc. HDR, you name it. It's got a brand new Dolby Atmos soundtrack. It is a kind of a crazy thing for a movie that, like I said, is almost all black and white, with the exception of certain touches of color here and there throughout the film, and like about 30 seconds of color at the beginning and a couple minutes of color footage at the end. I was kind of like, what's going to be the advantage of seeing this movie in 4K? And I am very glad to say that this is one of the greatest 4K films I have ever seen. This is just a masterwork that they did for this movie. It is one of the great films that I've seen in my lifetime, made greater by this new format. And the improvements over the old Blu-ray, the DVD from many years ago, it is just a massive, massive improvement in every way, shape, and form, and I'm going to tell you about that today. First of all, I'm going to start with the video quality of it. The video quality of this disc is absolutely stunning. The clarity you get and the details that you can see with this new transfer is truly outstanding. I cannot surmise to you how absolutely incredible this movie looks. The way that they have improved the picture in this is tenfold. The details you get, not only from clothing, but from, little details in the movie, it is really, really incredible. Details on clothing, the SS officer uniforms, little details you can see in this now are so stunning. Even, like details in shadows, and I'll be talking about black levels more in a minute, but just the uptick in detail is worth the purchase alone of this. Ironically enough, I even noticed a mistake in the film due to the amount of detail that's in it. There's a shot where it's actually kind of near the end of the film where Liam Neeson leans over Ben Kingsley as they're typing the list, and he has a cigarette in his mouth. And you can actually read the label on the cigarette, and it's a Marlboro Light cigarette, which didn't exist, obviously, when the film takes place. And I thought that was a wild little detail that I have never picked up before. And again, I have not seen this movie 20, 30 times. I've only seen it about 3 or 4 times. But I've literally never noticed that until this watch with this 4K. And it's incredible, the little things you can get. Even certain other scenes where there are details and shadows due to the 4K with the Dolby Vision HDR and everything. Details and shadows are greatly improved with this, to the point where certain scenes look completely different now than they did before. Black detail on this disc is absolutely like second to none. Since the movie is in black and white, Universal did something really special with this, and I think Steven Spielberg was one of the supervisors on this transfer. And the black and white of this is really wild to see because it's no longer just shades of black and white. You get little details in everything in this. The black and white is now different shades of black, different shades of white. And I know that sounds really weird, but the HDR only helps with differentiating shades, and the color portions jump out at you more than ever before. The scene with the little girl that's seen on the cover of this has such an impact now because that color jumps out at you so brightly during the scene. It really just increases everything throughout the film. And shots that are details and shadows now are well defined compared to before, whereas shadows were kind of dark and murky. Now in this film you can see things in those shadows that you just couldn't see before, and that Dolby Vision really does a number on that. It really is incredible, the amount of detail you get in this film, and that image quality is just increased tenfold. It's amazing. Next, I want to talk about the audio of the film, and this film here actually has a new Dolby Atmos track. And before, most Universal releases have a DTS-X master. This, they decided to go with Dolby Atmos, and I'm so glad that they did. It really improves everything in terms of sound. The overheads are used well enough. I don't want to say that they're used throughout the film, but when they are used to great effect. There's a great effect in the film where a train whistle is kind of heard overhead, and they also use it for voices in the distance when they're at some of the camps, the concentration camps. And it really does engulf you in the film. Audio quality throughout is just fantastic. Things are placed perfectly in the surrounds. Dialogue and everything is crystal clear throughout the entire film. And the way that it's that sound is used in this, especially with the musical score, is really incredible. I absolutely loved the musical score in this film, and the way that it's done with that Dolby Atmos now it's just completely emotionally draining. I was so struck by how beautiful the music was in this film with this new Dolby Atmos track. Of course, I had heard it before, but the new mix in this is outstanding. Also, the film has an extra disc with some bonus features in it, and there's a panel with some of the cast and Steven Spielberg, and the stories that they tell about filming the movie, and it's interspersed with behind-the-scenes footage, is really something to see. I absolutely loved hearing Steven Spielberg's stories and some of the stories that the cast talks about, Liam Neeson and Ben Kingsley and Bette Davidson and a couple others. They are really, really fascinating to hear, and they get pretty emotional when they start talking about certain things. Liam Neeson shares a story about how one of the producers of the film, who was actually a Holocaust survivor, points out the hut that he was in because they filmed on location at Auschwitz. And he just is like, you can tell he's starting to tear up, and it's really, really emotional. And as a whole, I mean, the whole experience obviously is an emotional one, but this is just, an incredible 4K set. It is a 3-disc set. There is the movie on 4K, there's the movie on Blu-ray, and then there's that bonus disc on Blu-ray that I mentioned that has the special features. It also goes into the Shoah Foundation at USC that Spielberg helped fund really and create, and that is an amazing piece of work unto itself to try to teach the next generation about the atrocities that happened during the Holocaust and also other genocides that have happened around the world since. It really is powerful stuff, and God bless Steven Spielberg for making this phenomenal film and for also trying to educate people about the atrocities that happened during that time period. Overall, I implore you to get Schindler's List in 4K. This 25th anniversary edition is just, it's incredible. It's an incredible masterwork. The new 4K transfer is absolutely stunning to look at. Even though the movie is extremely hard to watch at times, this is, in my opinion, the only way to see it. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal film made even better by this 4K format. Anyway, thank you for coming back to Cavanaugh's Corner. As always, if you enjoyed this, please hit that subscribe button. I am eternally grateful for all of you that have done that in the past and for those of you that will do that in the future. And hit the like button also if you enjoyed this review. Thank you again, and good night.